Podcast Network.
Welcome to Two Guys Talking. Would you like to try the special?
No, let me have one of your podcast networks, please.
What size drink would you like with that?
I'm gonna skip the drink, thanks.
Would you like any ketchup or sauce?
What the hell am I gonna do with ketchup or sauce with a podcast network?
Thank you for choosing Two Guys Talking. Please pull to the first window.
This is the weekly Firecast episode 39, a talk with Greg Bagarozy and CaJohn Hard about ZestFest Midwest.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
Welcome all the chili heads, fiery foods fans, barbecuers, hot sauce fanatics, and general foodies everywhere. I am Scott Roberts, host of the weekly Firecast. I'm a blogger, writer for Chili Pepper Magazine, podcaster, and I'm proud to present yet another stellar episode of the Firecast. In this installment, I talked to both Greg Bagarozy and CaJohn Hard about a brand new fiery food show called ZestFest Midwest. Now, if you don't know, ZestFest, the main show that's been going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for well over a decade, well, that has a spinoff show that's going to be held in Columbus, Ohio. And at the time of this recording, it's going to be 1 week from now, on June 28th, 29th, and 30th, 2013. Now, both Greg and CaJohn are repeat guests to the weekly Firecast. CaJohn Hard, I actually had him in the very first episode 1 of the weekly Firecast. If you want to go back, listen to that interview. Fantastic guest, one of the nicest and most accommodating guys in the whole hot sauce industry. And then Greg Bagarozy appeared on episode 21 when I talked about the regular ZestFest, the aforementioned one that's in Irving, Texas. Well, they both returned to do a conference call with me about the new ZestFest Midwest. Now, if you don't know who either of these gentlemen are, Greg Bagarozy is the president of Spicy Food Productions, LLC, basically the ones who put on the ZestFest and ZestFest Midwest shows. So he's the owner and producer of that show. And then CaJohn Hard, he's without a doubt the most famous of the Columbus, Ohio, and probably Ohio hot sauce makers. And since CaJohn is based in Columbus, Ohio, his particular role in helping with this show, he is an unofficial ambassador, one of the organizers, one of the guys who work behind the scenes really hard and reaching out to so many contacts to make the show possible. Later in this episode, I talk to both of these men, and I get the scoop on not only how this show would differ from the regular ZestFest, but they also talk about having a brand new hot sauce awards at some point in the future, probably next year, which are tentatively titled the Masters. So it's going to be some variation, some spin on that word, most likely. That's something to kind of look forward to. And the Ken's Fiery World segment, Ken talks about eating healthy and using spices to flavor your food instead of the fatty stuff that a lot of people rely on. And me, yeah, I'm not a food snob. I'm not a health food fanatic. You know, I love my greasy, fatty foods just like anyone else. But Ken gives a couple really good tips on how to implement that, kind of introduce that into your diet. And he himself has lost quite a bit of weight. I don't quite remember how many pounds he's lost in the past year. But Ken's looking very good, very healthy. Of course, I think he's implemented the P90X exercise routine. But in addition to that, he's had a nice, healthy diet that is, of course, accented by spices, chili peppers, herbs and spices, flavorings of all kind, and relying on that instead of just the regular junk and the regular fatty stuff that we are all accustomed to in this regular American cuisine. So be sure to listen to that. And in my foodie tip of the week, I give you a quick tip on how to cold smoke chili peppers. And before we get to all that, I have a few housekeeping notes. If you haven't visited my blog over at scottrobertsweb.com, I urge you to go over there and do so right now. And as I have explained in many episodes in the past, this past spring, and now of course it's summer here in the Northern Hemisphere in 2013, I'm having the Ultimate Hot Sauce Showdown. It's a gigantic tournament where two sauces face one another In polls, I'm trying to have 1 or 2 of them a week, lasting throughout the summer. And it's whittled down and the regular, 64 bracket tournament system that a lot of people are familiar with. And it'll get down to, the top 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, and then finally the Grand Champion. And each of these battles are polls that you, the hot sauce fans, could vote for on my site over at scottrobertsweb.com. So depending on when you go over to the site, you may see a battle raging. Of course, all of you, if you're a fan of any of the sauces up for contention, go ahead and vote for them and take part in the fun. And this is by no means any type of scientific contest. It's all in good fun. And the next tidbit I want to mention is that, the Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. If you go over to the website, the numeral 2, guystalking.com, there are a wealth of great entertainment and other topics that are in podcast form, namely a couple other ones that I'm involved with. And one that we're going to start right back up with a brand new season is the Two Guys Talking Dexter podcast. Yes, I'm talking about the Showtime show Dexter, about the serial killer of killers. Well, me and co-host Mike Wilkerson will go episode by episode, review them, tell you the goods and the bads, what we thought of certain plot points, what we thought of the show's writing, the acting, and it's a lot of fun to listen to, and some really good in-depth analysis of the show, too. So if you're a fan of Dexter, by all means, go over to twoguystalking.com/Dexter podcast and subscribe today. And if you're a True Blood fan on HBO, that season has already started this year. Two Guys Talking has a True Blood podcast. Now, I'm not involved with that one. And this True Blood podcast at Two Guys Talking is called the Fang Banger podcast. It's not only about True Blood, but it tackles many things in the horror and even a little bit in the science fiction genres. Now, I'm not involved with that one, but host Mike Wilkerson and David Carete, just like the Dexter podcast, will go episode by episode, analyze each week's show, and tell you the goods and the bads. And that one is also a lot of fun to listen to, if you're a True Blood fan. And also, I invite everyone to give me feedback. Super simple to do. Don't be afraid. I want to hear from everybody. Any positive notes, negative notes, criticism, suggestions for the show, ideas, just anything that's on your mind, give me feedback on it. And there are a couple really super simple ways of doing that. One is to go to weeklyfirecast.com, click on the contact page, fill out the form, and you're done. Or you can go over to the network page at twoguystalking.com/Firecast. There's an easy web form right now. It's on the left side of the page. Fill that out, send in your feedback, and who knows, I might read your feedback one of these days on a future episode. And I do read each and every piece of correspondence I get, whether it's for my blog, for the podcast, any of my professional ventures. I want to assure you that I don't ignore any of them, and I read all of them, and I take them to heart. So you're always welcome to give me feedback. And then something I ask of you, if you're a fan of the show on iTunes, feel free to give me a star rating and write a short little review on the iTunes page for the Weekly Firecast. Now, the way to get there is simply go to weeklyfirecast.com, click on the little iTunes icon. It's all over the page. It's on all the entries for all the podcasts, and that will open up the Weekly Firecast web page in iTunes. And right now, that page has a little blue button that says View in iTunes. And that blue button will open up the iTunes app. And on there you can rate the show, give me a little rating, and it will help out tremendously. It will give the show more exposure and actually have the Weekly Firecast appear higher in the iTunes rankings. So if you believe in what we're doing, if you want the fiery foods, hot sauce, barbecue industries to get more and more exposure, this is yet another way that you can help. So anyway, that's enough of me gabbing. You're probably thinking, Scott, quit droning on and on and on. Well, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and get to the weekly segments here on the Weekly Firecast, proudly part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network.
And now, the foodie tip of the week.
Today I'm going to tell you exactly how to smoke chili peppers. It's a very simple process. Anyone can do it as long as you have a charcoal grill of some kind. As a matter of fact, you don't specifically need a grill, but for ease of use and simplicity's sake, let's just use the charcoal grill in this little oral demonstration. So what you need are several whole chili peppers. You don't have to cut them. You don't have to pull the stems out. Just make sure that they're clean, free of any rotten spots. You'll need 8 to 10 charcoal briquettes. You'll need a regular aluminum pie pan, one of those flimsy disposable ones. And you'll need some wood chips or a couple of wood chunks. And any type of wood could do. Mesquite, oak, hickory, apple, cherry, pecan, whatever you have, they should all work pretty well. And what you do first is you soak your wood chips or chunks in water for about a half hour. And then what you do is you light those 8 to 10 charcoal briquettes until they're nice and white hot. And while you're doing that, take your aluminum pie pan, poke about 10 holes in the bottom. And this is what's going to hold your charcoal briquettes and your wood chunks. So those holes are going to be for air to get in, some ventilation, so that the briquettes stay hot. So anyway, after about a half hour, you'll take your wood chips or chunks out of the water, shake any excess water out, and take your pie pan, put about 3 or 4 of those briquettes on the pan itself, put your wood chips, the couple chunks on those white hot briquettes, and then put the remaining 3, 4, 5 briquettes on top of the wood. And then if you have a lower level rack to your grill, this is where you'll want to put your pie pan with the charcoal and the wood. So put that on the bottom rack. So you want to have that aluminum pan set to one side of the grill. Don't put it in the middle, set it to one side. Anyway, you'll put the top grill grate on, and you will put your chili peppers on the opposite side that the aluminum pie pan is on, so that they're not over the direct heat. Anyway, in the meantime, the white hot charcoal briquettes will start getting the wood chips or chunks smoldering. A lot of smoke will be produced, and what you'll want to do is close the lid on your grill and keep it closed. Don't keep looking up, because that'll just simply let the smoke out. So anyway, depending on the amount of chili peppers that you have and the size of the peppers, if you have decent sized ones like jalapenos, it might take about 4 or 5 hours for these to be cold smoked. And if you're a fan of a really heavy smoky flavor, you could do it for longer. I prefer only a medium smoky flavor in these. So really, while this is going on, you should probably only lift the lid and check a couple times just to make sure that the charcoals are lit, they stayed hot. And if you need to, light a couple more briquettes, add another wood chip or 2. But really, you don't need a whole lot. You don't want to create a fire in there, and you don't want to create immense amounts of heat. You want a nice, warm, well, I know I said cold smoking, but you just want to create enough warmth to kind of dry the peppers out and enough smoke to properly smoke the chili peppers. And after this whole process, guess what you'll have? Yep, you'll have some chipotles. And specifically, chipotles are dried smoked jalapenos, even though that definition nowadays has kind of been broadened to include all chili peppers. So go ahead and give it a shot. Experiment with different shapes and sizes and types of chili peppers and see what kind of new flavorings you can get next weekend.
And now, Ken's Fiery World.
Joining me once again for his Ken's Fiery World segment is Ken Alexander. How's everything going with you?
It's going just right, Scott. How are you tonight?
Can't complain. What have you got for us?
I think this week we're going to talk about healthy eating and how spice and flavorful foods kind of play into that. And the genesis of that, Scott, is twofold. One is my own weight loss journey and becoming healthy journey over the past year. I just recently had my year anniversary of really seriously starting that journey. And then secondarily, I was sent an ebook called Skinny Spices, 50 nifty homemade spice blends from a lady, Erica. Oh my goodness. She's going to shoot me. Levy Klein, that wrote this book, and it's basically the same line. It's using spices to help her in her own, healthy living journey.
Yeah. Okay. Listeners might not know about your weight loss journey. Of course, you posted those photos on Facebook. And let me tell you, just the amount of weight you lost, just how different you look. It's like night and day. And you did an absolutely outstanding job. Congratulations on that. You're a nice, healthy, skinny, svelte stud now.
I don't know about the stud part. I'm skinnier, I'm definitely a lot skinnier than I was. I started a year ago really seriously, losing weight, and lost 100 pounds over the course of about 6 months. And I did that through a program diet, and that was basically a balanced protein, low carb diet, and very strict, low cal. And then and that's, basically got the weight off from between June and November. And then have spent, since November, developing the healthy aspect of that and relearning basically my lifestyle of how to eat and what to eat and when to eat, and have just kind of morphed into more of this kind of Weight Watchers balanced diet, and then, supplement with regular exercise. And that's been, that's working for me. And I can tell you, I'm 55 and I haven't felt this good since I got out of the Army when I was 21.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, it really is. For me, I was pre-diabetic. I had severe sleep apnea. I had, high blood pressure that was just at the point of needing medication, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I had joint problems and my knees hated me. And so it's amazing that all of that went away when I lost the weight. I mean, the sleep apnea is gone. The pre-diabetes is gone. The blood pressure went from 150s over 90s to, 120 over 68. So all the things that you read about are true. And so, but it's difficult. I can tell you personally that it's not an easy thing. It wasn't easy for me. It just took a lot of focus and determination and deciding that I was ready. Mm-hmm. I'd kind of flipped that mental switch. The one advantage we have as spicy food lovers is the flavor and the impact that spice and heat and hot sauce and spices bring to our world, our fiery worlds, and how that plays. And so when I received this book, it was pretty exciting, and I've had it for a while, and I've read it. And this lady, it's Erica Levy-Klein. I think I had it reversed before, and it's 50 nifty homemade spice blends that can turn blah healthy eating into flavor-rich, delicious dining. And she does a very good job. You can get it at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And she kind of goes in and she talks about the 25 most common spices, and there's all kinds of links. And she does the ebook very smartly in linking to recipes. And so you click on a spice turmeric, and it gives you a list of recipes that are made for turmeric, or cayenne pepper is her pepper of choice that she puts in, or ginger. And then she gives spice blends that you can mix. And so I've used some of these, and some I'd already known about. It's made all the difference in the world. A meal doesn't go by that I'm not hitting my spice cabinet. Mm-hmm. And my special spice cabinet. And if you see my profile pics, or you see I've got a shelf in my kitchen with over 200 sauces and powders and things on it that are of varying levels of heat and flavor. And something goes on every dish that I eat, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, it doesn't matter. If for no other reason for somebody to get into the world of fiery food, a lot of health benefits. There was a study that was in gastro journals for gastroenterologists some years ago that actually talked about, and I can't remember what journal it was in, that talked about the lower incidence of colon cancers in Hispanic males, and they traced it back to their diet. And it's because they had a higher level of spice in their diet. So the kind of the abstract and the hypothesis is that it kept their systems clean, and it had some properties in it that they couldn't truly explain that lowered their incidence of GI issues and cancers overall. So, and I had reflux. I took a Prilosec a day for 15 years. I used to say, well, hey, a Prilosec a day, I can eat anything. But I can tell you that even with the spice and with the heat, I don't take a Prilosec anymore. That's another one of those things that went away. That I can still take anything just as hot as before when I was taking this Prilosec and don't have any issue at all.
Yeah. Well, that kind of describes me. I've had acid reflux since I was about 12 or 13. And now, I do take a Prilosec every day. It's usually, and I will tell everybody this, it is the fried foods. It's the fatty foods, cheesy foods, and things that are acidic like tomato sauce, marinara sauce, that will give me the heartburn. Mm-hmm. There are times I could skip a day taking a Prilosec, and I look back at my diet and I notice it's a lot more of the natural fruits and vegetables and the clean kind of stuff. And by all means, I am not, Mr. Health Food Addict. I still love my fatty, cheesy, fried foods. I splurge and all that kind of stuff, but I am eating smarter a lot more nowadays. And it's become more of a gradual process. And I think just getting into sauces, hot sauces, barbecue sauces, the past several years, of course, naturally you gravitate towards the seasonings and you kind of explore using, this spice mix, that seasoning mix.
Right.
Just seeing what is up in your cabinet. And you can do a lot more to flavor your food that way. So you just, at least with me, I've started to shy away from using almost a crutch of fat for flavor.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. You can get so much flavor with with the peppers or sesame or any of the spices, and they're very, very low calorie. I mean, some of them have no calorie. People laugh at me. I go to Subway and I'll get a chopped chicken salad at Subway. Is a pretty common lunch for me nowadays, and I learned when I was on the diet, couldn't have any carbs or fat or my calories were limited. One day it's like, well, just put mustard on. And the lady at Subway looked at me like I was nuts. And it said, I eat it on a sandwich. So this is basically the sandwich without the bread.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's become a pretty good staple for me when I'm out, especially with those Subway salads, and it's mustard. And you've got how many different types of mustards are there? So now I play with sauce and, when I do reviews, that's one of my signature things is making salad dressings out of hot sauces. Because, by and large, hot sauces have very little caloric content, very little fat, tons of flavor. So I'll mix it up with a little bit of olive oil or even by itself or lemon juice or whatever, just to play, or some extra, different types of vinegars. But, a lot of them have, less than 10 calories a teaspoon in these spices. And so, and it's just, it opens up a whole new world, and especially if you learn to blend them well. And so one thing I've learned is reading, especially since I've been reviewing sauces, is a sauce that I particularly like the flavor blends on. I will look and pay very close attention to the ingredient list. Not just for the peppers that they're using, but I look to see what spices do they bring to the table. And that's for the makers that actually share what spices they put in. Some of them just put spices for their kind of trade secrets. So you don't know all the blends, but you can kind of, you start to get a feel for it. But just to see, some have more, creative flavorings than others. We've talked about Steve Seaberry's and High River sauces. I think Steve does a great job. I think Merle with Hellfire sauces does a really good job bringing some really off-the-wall ingredients to the table. Jeremy Walsh with Big Fats. I think Big Fats is one of the most, has just truly good grasp of spice and flavor, and an organic sauce that, I use their stuff, just all the time.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? If somebody would taste some of the Big Fat sauces just by themselves, they would think, huh? What? But mix them with the right foods, and they will knock your socks off.
Yes, they will. But, what I do is I look and see, okay, well, what spices I try to, Rick Caston with El Gringo Loco, and I think Rick is in the process of kind of rebranding his salsas and sauces. I think Rick does an outstanding job with all the different flavors and ingredients in his salsas to create some of the just knock your socks off flavor profiles out there in the salsa industry, to the extent that he won the grand overall People's Choice at ZestFest, 2 years ago, I think, Scott?
Yeah.
That was there. And, so you look to see what do they bring to the table, and I will duplicate that just in the spice cabinet with vegetables or meats or casseroles or whatever I'm cooking with, just to see, do I get the same impact as I do with their sauces? And then I'll play and just do their sauces sometimes. And so just, playing around with it. But, that's the takeaway here. If you're on a journey to try to become more healthy, don't just look at a hot sauce. Don't just look at a volcanic peppers pepper blend as something to add heat to your dish. You need to look at it as part of that retooling and retraining your brain and your stomach and your senses and your taste buds to look at the spice and the flavor in something. And I think that Erica's book here, The Skinny Spices, really hit a nerve with, a good nerve, not a bad nerve, but hit a chord with me, I guess I should say. Encourage people to kind of you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble's. I think it's a $10 download. Like my Cold Twist Jalapeno Madness book is another one that, if you're into jalapenos, does a great job kind of giving you a lot of creative thought process to use with those. And that's another ebook download as well.
Mm-hmm. A very good advice. And of course, just again, the takeaway, it's not for heat. Experiment with the flavor and just slowly do that over time. And I think people over a period of a year or two will really find a way to integrate this into their diets. We're not advocating, everyone become health food nuts.
Right. People get caught up in fatty dressings. I want a Caesar, or I want a blue cheese. And I love a good blue cheese dressing. Don't get me wrong, man. A lettuce wedge with blue cheese, with blue cheese is one of my favorite things. But that's a treat for me now. It's not something I would routinely do, but using sauces and spices and things is something. And I could go on and on with different companies about who does a great job. I think, Sam and Joyce Peters with Pater Fam sauces have just finished up their big Kickstart campaign is another one that just, they have a sauce with pawpaw fruit. And if you're not from, the certain areas of the country, it's like, well, what in the heck's a pawpaw? And who would have thought to put it in a sauce? But it's very healthy and it's low-cal and it's something that, adds a different nuance and texture to a dish. And that's what it's about, man. It's about treating yourself with good flavor and allowing yourself the ability to not rely on the old, just that satiating fat that's not good for you anymore. And do what we do best here in Fiery Food Land is dive into the spice. If you like the heat, dive into the heat, but, know that it's doing more for you than just tingling your taste buds.
Excellent, excellent. So your website can be found at fieryworld.com.
That's right. Fieryworld.com. You'll see an upcoming blog post about this book in the next few weeks. Tell your listeners, I've actually got somebody working on the blog right now, so it's going to have kind of a new unveiling, whatever you call it, reemergence here in a few weeks. Pretty excited about that. Working up a new logo and a masthead, and just kind of refining the blog a little bit. And got several reviews that are in the queue waiting to pop back out. So let everybody go see www.fieryworld.com, and that's always my closing line is to, ladies and gentlemen, always remember that it is a fiery world.
Thank you very much for joining us, Ken.
Thank you, Scott, and looking forward to talking to you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Joining. I'm going to take a little break. Next up is my interview with Greg Bagarozy and CaJohn Hard about ZestFest Midwest. So stick around.
Blood, a dark passenger. The binding ties of clear plastic. They're not just hallmarks of the hit Showtime television program, Dexter. They're bullet points talked about each week on the Dexter podcast from Two Guys Talking. Don't miss out on killer dialogue that leaves you with a bloodlust for more. It's the Two Guys Talking Dexter podcast for Dexter fans. Find out more now at twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2guystalking.com.
I'm Bob Chrisman from the Galaxy Cast, reviewing each and every episode of The Clone Wars, sci-fi entertainment, and more on the Two Guys Talking podcast network.
Having a friendly, relatable voice can mean all the difference in your marketing efforts. Let Scott Roberts' voiceover be that voice. I can give you the goods, whatever your need is, whether it be for commercials, podcasts, voicemail phone systems and on-hold messages, business presentations, websites, audiobooks, and more. If you require a personable, real, down-to-earth voiceover artist, then look no further. You can find out more at scottrobertsvoice.com.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli. Don't miss our interview with Michael the Grinder Mizrachi in our most recent episode of Two Guys Talking Poker.com.
Are you tired of paying outrageous prices for proprietary office software? Is half of the budget for your new PC dedicated to buying expensive applications? Or do you simply live in fear that a multinational corporation might sue you for the thousands of dollars of unauthorized software you have on your PC? Well, fear not! Freedom Sampler is here! With Freedom Sampler, you can experience guilt-free computing for the first time without opening your wallet. Freedom Sampler provides a full office suite, a full-featured photo editor, web browsing and email, and much more, all without any cost, and all without replacing your current operating system. Visit freedomsampler.com to download your free copy today. Freedom Sampler. Taste the freedom.
And we are back with more of the weekly Firecast.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
Joining me on Skype today is Greg Bagarozy of ZestFest and CaJohn Hard of CaJohn's Fiery Foods. How are you gentlemen doing today?
I'm doing good. You, John?
I'm doing real well, too. It's a good Monday morning.
Yes, it is. Obviously, we're here to talk about the brand new show that's going to take place in just a couple weeks in Columbus, Ohio, ZestFest Midwest. Now, ZestFest itself, the main show, has had a bit of history, but we want to talk about this brand new show, see what it's like, and what the history is behind it. So, gentlemen, I talked to Judy Furhop, it might have been about a year and a half ago. She told me, and of course, I don't think she's employed with you guys anymore. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Well, anyway, she was telling me that you guys wanted to expand and do a couple other shows just outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth one. And so finally, here we are, again, about a year and a half later, with ZestFest Midwest. Now, how did this one develop, and why was this city chosen?
In terms of doing sales and prospecting for additional vendors for ZestFest Texas, we always ran into the situation where small or newly formed companies couldn't travel to Texas. It was just, the economics of the situation and or the logistics were difficult for a lot of East Coast and or Southern companies to make that journey. So it's been in my mind for quite a while to expand the concept, and as ZestFest itself just grew and grew, and last year the show sold out in exhibitors, which was a really tremendous show. Decided to jump into the arena, so to speak, and add a second show. We did a survey to see what cities would be most popular. And then, I'll let John take this other part, but he put me in a headlock and started to describe the benefits of doing it in Columbus. But, in terms of our research there, it's a city, it's a state capital. It's the people there are very affluent. It has one of the largest university systems in the United States. So there's plenty of kids and professors, and it's a tremendous foodie town. I mean, people there are very sophisticated and love their food. Those are my reasons for deciding. And then John sort of plowed the way for us to make sure that we got advantageous deals with his connections in the city, and that's about it. I mean, and it happened.
Yeah.
One of the things that I pointed out to him was the North Market Show, where we draw between 4,000 and 5,000 people just the second, I guess it's the third weekend, second to third weekend of February, for a show down there that has about 18 to 20 vendors. And, it's a good town. It's a white-collar town that is virtually recession-proof. We've got the largest employers are the state and the university, and we have a lot of insurance companies, software companies, things like that located here. So it was a good town with a good income.
Yeah, and while Columbus to the outsider may seem like an oddball choice, again, you mentioned the North Market Show draws a big crowd, and even 100 miles, what would it be, southwest? I mean, you've had Jungle Jim's Weekend of Fire going on for 6-7 years. So Ohio definitely can be, and it's proven to be a big draw for Fiery Foods fans. How did you guys narrow down the actual venue for ZestFest Midwest?
There's really three choices in the market. There's the Downtown Convention Center, and then there's the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and then there's the State Fairgrounds. We looked at all of them, and the State Fairgrounds just had, the best facilities and amenities there, in terms of parking space, ease of access, building is an indoor building, but also has a great outdoor space that's covered. So in the future, when the show grows, we can combine an outdoor show with an indoor show there. And it just, they're used to doing shows there, and it's actually, we were lucky to get a weekend there, and it's a great venue. It just works well.
And as far as the time of year, was that strategically planned, or were you just guys looking for, anything in the summertime, or, what was the thinking behind that?
Well, I had asked John and also June from our show to do some research on the time. And we wanted to fit it in a time slot that really didn't conflict other spicy, fiery food shows out there because, we wanted to make it an easy choice for our vendors to go to. So the timing was sort of based on that, and also, availability of space in the building, because that building is just works all the time in that venue.
Yeah. Just personally, I think it's pretty good, and it's with all these other shows kind of popping up regionally. Yeah, you guys were able to get a time slot that I don't think conflicts with anything else. So, let's go ahead and talk about the show. Is the format pretty much going to be the same thing as the main ZestFest that takes place in Dallas-Fort Worth?
Yeah, but just before I get to that, the other real interesting thing that happened in Columbus was that we were able to partner with the 100-pound gorilla in media, which is a dispatch group in the city of Columbus. Mm-hmm. Now, not only do they have the the Columbus Dispatch, which is the daily newspaper, but they also own the CBS television station. They own the weekly newspaper. They own a monthly food magazine called Crave, which is the marquee sponsor of the event. Numerous other, they have, community newspapers and internet sites, and they pretty much control 60-70% of the media in that town.
Mm-hmm.
If it's print, they own it, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're able to have that kind of backing and support from them.
Well, the reality of it is that because they have come on board, the amount of media that they're going to put out regarding this show is just unheard of in terms of, never mind a well-established show. I can't duplicate that in Texas, which I've been doing for 11 years. So, the media value is this. It's going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, which, anybody that signs up for the show is going to reap the benefit of the attendees responding to that media.
Now, you're just going to have the vendors, and are you going to have any type of food contest? Are you going to have live music like you do at the regular ZestFest?
The format is pretty much the same as it is in ZestFest. Everything is going to revolve around the celebrity chef stage. We've been fortunate enough to get Manbarbecue in there, which they're going to reproduce what Eddie Dean does in Texas. And that is, they're going to put a smoker outside, and then they're going to go shopping in the show for what I like to call the flavors of ZestFest, mm-hmm. and go to each of the vendors and, cook some ribs with their products there. So, people can sample as well as, in the aisles, but then they can go to the celebrity chef stage, and then they can sample, some ribs covered with this rub or that rub or some of John's product on there, or most of it revolves around the chef stage. We're not going to do live music because that's been a mixed thing where, a lot of people enjoy it. Well, let me say fewer people enjoyed it that didn't, because people there were actually wanted to be able to speak to the vendors, and, in terms of our polling and our research, it was more of a distraction than it was a benefit. Everything is going to run around the chef stage. There's going to be 2 food eating competitions, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. We're going to be doing a wing eating competition, and then we're going to be doing a jalapeno eating contest on Sunday.
That sounds good.
New thing, Scott, is that instead of an early closure on Friday night, we're going to be open till 9. And I think that Greg's working on some activity to try to bring in people after work that night.
Interesting. I noticed that the other day, and it's like 9 o'clock. That's fairly late. Obviously, that is not going to be the trade-only day of the show. I mean, that's going to be open to the public Friday night, correct?
That's going to be open to the public all day. What we're going to be doing, and this is, research in Texas, is that on Friday, we were missing a large segment of the market where people did not have enough time to get off work, go home, and then get back to the show, or get off work, go home and eat, and get back to the show, because we close it at 6 o'clock in Texas because we do the Fiery Food Challenge dinner after that. So we were losing a large portion of the attendees because they just couldn't make it on Friday. So we're working out a situation where people will have time to come to the show, have dinner. We're working out an arrangement with Cox food distributors. They're the food provider at the state fairgrounds. We're going to bring in a couple of food trucks so people can come to the show, sample, check out what's going on the stage, and actually have dinner there on Friday.
Yeah.
And aside from that, we discounted the ticket price on Friday to $10. Which makes it, an enjoyable evening and, a very inexpensive family fun.
Very good, very good. I'm glad you guys were able to do something like that. In years past, I know that I've heard people kind of grumble about that. It's like, not just ZestFest, but other shows that are kind of open on a Friday, and they think, well, it's only open for a couple hours. Why do you justify charging the same amount? So, excellent move on you guys' part. Now, I know you're not going to have any Fiery Food Challenge where you, have the awards for the products and everything.
Well, it's not necessarily true. I mean, I'll do the first part, but John is going to go into the second part of it. We're going to have a People's Preference Award there, where exhibitors can enter their product.
Oh, okay.
We're going to experiment with a whole new touchscreen system of judging where people can sample the product and then put their choices on touchscreens. So, we're moving into the future here at ZestFest. So, but there are plans for year 2. And the one who's putting that together is John. So I'll let him discuss that.
Well, what we plan on doing is sort of an invitational contest. Not that people that we don't know about will be excluded, but it's going to be, we're inviting by the companies, and it's going to kind of take on the name of the Masters. It's going to be considered that, I guess you would say that it's going to be one of the best sort of things. You're not going to have won something before, but it'll be similar in nature to the Fiery Food Challenge with the number of categories. There will be some reductions and some changes to more adequately fit the industry, I think. Some of the things like and things that have been in it in the past, I really don't see that there's a need for. But this Masters will be on the level of the Golden Chilies is what we're aiming for. And like I said, the basis of it is basically an invitational.
Do you guys have any idea what criteria, what it might be based on, why you would invite, certain products to enter this competition?
Well, we got to get this show out of the way first, and then we'll hone that down. We came up with a broad stroke on it. It's kind of something that hasn't been done before. It will take some research into the other. We're not going to require that you've won something else. There is going to be a little bit of a step up with all the, how would I say it, hobby manufacturers coming into it. We want to make sure that these are legitimate companies that are out there trying to make a buck at this and not just in it for fun.
Exactly. Anyway, to kind of clarify what I said a while ago, this is not going to be something where people just simply submit products months ahead for judging, and then you guys will have an award show one of the nights, correct? It's going to be different.
That is sort of the idea. Is that I believe that it's always nice to have that little get-together party, whether that would be something that is done on a Saturday night at ZestFest Midwest is a possibility. Yeah, it would basically be the same that it was sent in prior to the show, the judging and the compilation done, and then announced at the show.
But of course, you would contact the manufacturers. Correct, and then they would just simply submit their products, and judging would be done that way.
Right.
Okay.
It would be an invitational. There would be invitations sent out to submit the products.
Gotcha.
went through this quite a bit, and we didn't want to do another fiery food challenge because, I mean, you just can't do it. That's such a prestigious award, and people look forward to it each year, and, so we needed to do something different, and, and we didn't have enough time to do it for the first year, so we were going to develop it through the People's Preference Award, and then give it its own status as a standalone show, as not part of the Fiery Food Challenge.
We really want to bring a little bit more focus onto the manufacturer. I mean, we're not going to have things like apparel because I don't think there's any mastery in doing that. But, when we get into barbecue, sauces, salsas, things like this is where the true mastery comes out, spice blending. So you're going to see a reduction and more of a focus on the quality of the product. And that's why we are trying to ask that, the main people in the industry, the ones that are prominent, there could be nominations even. We'll get with you on it as we determine it. We'll get you the scoop on it.
That sounds great. Of course, that's going to be 2014. Let's focus back on this year. How has the turnout from the vendors been?
Actually, the turnout was slow initially, but now it's like picking up, and the show, it looks like it's going to be for a first-year event, remarkable in terms of the numbers of vendors that are signing up and that the contracts are out. That it's going to be a remarkable show, especially for a year-one event.
Yeah. Again, you have to stress that year-one event. It's not going to be the regular ZestFest simply transplanted to a new town. It's a brand-new show, even though it does have the ZestFest label.
Yeah, but, Scott, I got to tell you, this is going to be the size that Fort Worth was, and that was 11 years. In year one, this show is going to have the same amount of exhibitors as well as a very interesting chef stage. So, and the major part of that was the dispatch group coming on and just putting their media muscle into it, so that people realized what a presence this created in year one.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I want to point out is that it's not just truly a Midwest show. We've got people coming from California, from Texas, from Louisiana, from Tennessee. This is when you look at the exhibitor list, it's pretty impressive for a Midwest show. One of the other things that I tried to sell Greg on and was successful was we took a look at the number of manufacturers, and you're aware of this, Scott, that are in the Midwest. I mean, we have quite a few people there. Just the fact that we could draw the people. Captain Tom's coming in from Baltimore. I mean, we're getting more than just the Midwest. We're getting people, from Florida, and they're all coming up to exhibit here in Columbus.
Definitely. John, what can we look for from CaJohn's Fiery Foods here at the show?
Well, we're going to have kind of an island sort of booth there where we'll have the Food Hounds and Bumblefoot with us. We'll also have the Chili Pepper Institute. We have one new product that we're going to be bringing out. It's another kind of a super hot product, not an extract, but a nice blend of the new ones. But we're going to be focusing a lot on the barbecue end of what we do as well. So that's what we've got to look for.
And then I also wanted to just point out that, we take care of our exhibitors on the show. And what I mean by that is we negotiate the lowest drayage rates in the industry to get into a show. We give them hand wash stations. We make sure that, anything we can possibly do to take care of them, have some people there to help them load in. And now with the new hotel deal at Crown Plaza North, they're doing shuttle bus service to and from the airport as well as to and from the venue. So people can park their truck at the hotel and then get ferried back and forth to the convention center. Our exhibitors are very important to us, and we do the best, we think, in the industry to make sure that their experience they feel welcome and is profitable.
And that hotel is in the Bush Corporate Center up by the brewery. It's a really nice area. I think that's a heck of a deal for that hotel.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, what are all the details on ZestFest, the dates, ticket prices, hours, everything like that?
I'll run through that. The show is the 28th, 29th, and 30th. If you buy your tickets in advance, they're $10 for Friday and $12 for Saturday and Sunday. There's a $2 box office charge because what it is, I can't get around that. Mm-hmm. And then it's $1 more if you buy them at the door. We're really trying to encourage people to buy in advance because that way you don't wait online. You get to go to the show, and it's a very easy experience. The hours on Friday are 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday is 10 to 6, and Sunday is 10 to 5.
I think that we're going to have a great time. Like I said, we've got a good plan for it. There's a lot of excitement with the chefs here in town. Columbus has not had a food show, which I think has helped us. I mean, it's probably been 10 years since there was a food show here, and that's why I think the Dispatch Group was really anxious to jump on board, and they're going to throw quite a bit at it. And I think we're going to come off not looking like a first-year show.
Yeah. No, well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah, and then I also think that anybody that comes to this show, Columbus is going to respond to this show positively. They're going to make this show the city's show, just as Irving did in Texas, and support it and come back year after year. And I think the people that are exhibiting in year one are going to really reap the benefit of the exposure and then of the excitement from the population about this show. I mean, the buzz is really out there. Anybody I speak to, I call this guy, oh, you're doing ZestFest, so great. I mean, it's like really remarkable that the community support. And now just one other thing is that the charity for the event is the Children's Hunger Alliance, which is a great charity so that people can donate when they buy tickets and or when they go up to the stage and pick up their samples, throw them, some money so that, because we really believe in giving back to the community. And, it's a perfect mix for a charity, helping out our kids and helping them, get the nutrition that they need. So we're very excited to be partnering with them.
Excellent. Of course, we want to point everybody to your website, ZestFest Midwest. Contains all the details, the vendor list, the interactive vendor map. Of course, if anybody's interested in being an exhibitor, there's still plenty of time to do so, correct?
Absolutely. I think in Texas we took an exhibitor in on Saturday, so of the show.
That's kind of pretty close. You have hotel information on the website as well?
We do, and it's, again, the Crown Plaza North, and the room rates, I mean, normally that's $125 to $145 per night hotel. We negotiated a deal for $70 for the exhibitors on that hotel, so incredible rate.
Great deal. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank both of you for joining me this morning. Obviously, I'm going to see you guys in a couple of weeks. I hope it's a huge success for everyone involved.
And then just one other thing is I really wanted to, personally thank John for all of his efforts in the show. He's really put a lot of work and a lot of his own personal capital, in terms of his prestige in the show. And, there's a lot of times you don't get to thank somebody for all of the effort they put into it. And John, I thank you.
I'm really looking forward to being a part of this, and very, very happy to be a part of it.
Again, thank you very much, and I will see you guys soon.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Scott.
Joining me once again, ZestFest Midwest is coming up now. It's less than 1 week. It's this coming weekend, June 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Ohio Expo Center. And if you're anywhere in Ohio, come to this event. There's going to be so many vendors, so much food, hot sauce, barbecue sauce, salsa, seasoning, all kinds of things for you to try and buy. Some of the very best specialty food makers are going to be there. This is not to be missed. And the website for ZestFest Midwest is, of course, www.ZestFestMidwest. Website for CaJohn's Fiery Foods is CaJohns.com, and it's spelled CaJohns.com. So it's almost spelled like California John's, with the abbreviation of California, of course, is CA, or you think of Cajun, but instead of Cajun, it's CaJohn. And as always, I'll put those links in the show notes. Just look for episode 39. And Ken Alexander's website could be found at fieryworld.com. And my own blog, my hub, my base of operations on the web, if you're unfamiliar with it, is scottrobertsweb.com. That's where it all started, and all the other sites revolve around that. And also look for me on the social media sites. You can like my page at facebook.com/ScottRobertsWeb. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/ScottRoberts. And also I'm on Google Plus and Pinterest, YouTube, just about all the major ones. Well, except for maybe Instagram, but that's just a photo site. We don't care about that one right now anyway. Anyway, you just do a search for Scott Roberts or Scott Roberts Web, and I'm sure you'll find me. And if you'd like to provide any feedback for the Weekly Firecast, you can do so either at weeklyfirecast.com or the numeral 2guystalking.com/Firecast. If you have anything positive to say, any constructive criticism, suggestions for the show, ideas for tips, I'm all open for that as well. If you have a tip you'd like to share, by all means, I'll read it on the air, give you credit, or anything else you'd like to get off your chest about the show, jump on one of those super simple web forums and contact me. And also, it would help out quite a bit if you'd rate and review the Weekly Firecast on iTunes. Just go over there, give it a star rating, say a few words about it, and again, it will help the Firecast out appear higher in the search ranking for the particular fields of hot sauce, barbecue, chili peppers, what have you. So I thank you all in advance for that. And now comes to the final segment of the show, where I read off everyone who's retweeted my link on Twitter or shared the link on Facebook. And how it works is, whenever I post a link to a new episode of the Weekly Firecast, simply retweet my tweet or share my link that I have on there. I will mention your name or your company's name in the very next episode. So anyway, starting with everybody who retweeted on Twitter, there was Gabby's Smoke Shack, and their Twitter handle is Gabby's Smoke Shack, and Gabby's is spelled Gabis. There's Danny Orozco, his Twitter handle is @HotSauceFiend. There was Hot Sauce Addicts, and their Twitter handle is @HotSauceAddicts. There was the Reverend Tommy Two-Tone, and his Twitter handle is Rev Tommy Two-Tone. There was Midwest Chili Heads, and their Twitter handle is @MWCHS. There was K-Men, and his Twitter handle is @MaxFredman. And there was the Reaper, and the Reaper's Twitter handle is @GrimReaperFoods. There's Graham Ford, and his Twitter handle is @TheChiliHound, and chili is spelled CHILI. There was Funny Bones, and their Twitter handle is @FunnyBonesInfo. There was Salamander Sauce. Their Twitter handle is @Salamander Sauce. And also sharing on Twitter, there was Paul. His Twitter handle is @13 brand. There was Jay, and his Twitter handle is @CrazyCunner. James Haskell also shared a link on Twitter. His Twitter handle is JD Haskell. There's Dave Hitterbush. His Twitter handle is @Dave's Foods, and instead of the S's in Dave's and Foods, there are Z's. There's my good friend and hot sauce collector extraordinaire, Vic Klinko. There was What'sUpBrian.com, and his Twitter handle is What'sUpBrian.com. And finally, there was Arthur, and his Twitter handle is Arthur Salsa Boy. Then, sharing the link on Facebook, there was the Acadiana Tea Room. There was Alan Giella, and there was Dana Romero, who I happened to interview last episode, and there was Burn Your Tongue Hot Sauces, sharing the link on Facebook. So I thank everybody for helping to spread the word for the promotion. And remember, if you have a hot sauce barbecue company, any type of organization, and you want to get your name mentioned on the air in front of almost 6,000 people, again, all you do is look for my links to the latest episodes of the Weekly Firecast, retweet them, share them, and I will give you the love. So that is it for episode 39 of the Weekly Firecast. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everybody for your love and support for downloading, listening, and subscribing so far. Without all you guys, I would be nothing. So until next time, God bless you all, and remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.